Piers Morgan of Piers Morgan Uncensored was on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. They covered a number of topics that I would consider to be interesting. And one of those things that they covered was Tommy Robinson. Now, obviously, you had Patrick Bet-David say, what do you think of Tommy Robinson? Like, not the personal attacks that's been going on, because we know that Piers Morgan has continuously lied about Tommy Robinson. And like, I never thought for 1 second that I would hear Piers Morgan, of all people, with the like history that Tommy and Piers have had. I would not think, didn't have this on my bingo card this year. I would not think for 1 second that Piers Morgan, of all people, would be actually praising Tommy Robinson. It would seem like these two were bitter enemies and bitter rivals for quite some time, especially when Piers would constantly lie about Tommy and his motives and who he is as a person and what he's done and all that sort of stuff. But it seems very intriguing that Piers Morgan on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, even though Patrick said not the personal stuff and all that sort of nonsense, and he had this to say. Have a watch.
So we see the videos. We see Tommy Robinson. I have Tommy Robinson on. I know you guys have had your set of back and forth, and I've followed it over the years of what's happened. But what do you think about what Tommy says? Not his background, not any of the criminal stuff, not any of that stuff that maybe you guys have issues with. I'm not trying to do the personal stuff. What do you think about what Tommy is showing when he's going in the streets, having 100,000 people showing up? A lot of people in London finally are coming out saying the Overton window of immigration, not even people in London, the story came out last week, they're even more aggressively anti-immigration than America. They're like, we don't want any more of this. For you, somebody who is from there, what have you noticed the changes in London since Muslims started entering decades ago?
Well, I think it's the problem has been massively exaggerated. However, there is a rising problem. That's how I would categorize it myself. Tommy Robinson resonates with people because of two things, I think. One, he was absolutely right about the grooming gang scandal in the north of England. It was a horrendous scandal involving almost exclusively British Pakistani men abusing young white English girls. That was the scandal, and it was going on for years. It was horrific. These girls were being appallingly abused by a particular section of the community. But nobody dared say what that community was, because they were trapped in woke ideology that you can't name a criminal if it doesn't suit the woke agenda. And so Tommy Robinson was one of those people that early on began calling this out, and he was right to do so, and he deserves credit for doing it. Mainstream media weren't completely oblivious. One guy on The Times actually exposed it originally and kept banging that drum. But many people in the establishment in the UK conspired to cover it up. They didn't want this. They thought it would be too much of a powder keg to say what actually happened, which is this was British Pakistani men abusing white English girls. That was it. And they should have been clear with what was going on. So Tommy Robinson deserves credit for that. Let's not get into his background. I have my issues about it. I have my issues about some of the sanitization of who he is when he comes on American shows, because he tends to, I think, be very disingenuous. But park all that. Why is he also gathering momentum now with his marches, which used to be, you know, really a bunch of thugs running around, you know, attacking police and so on. But it's morphed into a much bigger number of people. Many of them are completely peaceful. Many of them share his concerns about immigration failures, in terms of policy failures in the country for decades now. And again, on that specific, he's right. And the reason he's right is you can go back to really, it's interesting that I think the way this has played out. Tony Blair in the early 2000s opened the floodgates on immigration, but to Eastern Europe. And so we suddenly had a massive influx of people from Eastern Europe into the UK. And this was deemed to be a good thing. And then it became a thing that was slightly out of control. And then generally immigration seemed to spiral out of control, both legal and illegal. We started getting this problem on the boats coming over from France. It's now up to 50, 60,000 people a year are coming in illegally on these small boats. No one appears to have any idea how to stop this happening. But I think more damagingly, 2 years ago, we had a net migration in the UK of legal migration of nearly 1 million people. Now, to put it in context, we only have just under 70 million people in the UK. You bring in 1 million people a year legally and add them to the already creaking infrastructure. You know, we have our much vaunted national health system, the NHS. was designed in the 50s for a population of 50 million. We now have a population of nearly 70 million. So comparative to America, we're a fifth of the size, but in comparison to where we were in the 50s, we are massively bigger population. The strain on all of our infrastructure, all our public services, has been getting worse and worse and worse in direct correlation to the size of our population. And that is what's been fueling a lot of the anger. A lot of people, add the pandemic, add the cost of living crisis, so add years of really tough times for a lot of people, particularly working class people in Britain. And they see a lot of people coming in either illegally or with the blessing of the state, with many dependents. And they see with the illegal migrants coming over on the southern border, they get put in 3-4-star hotels. They get treated way better than the way that many people are living their lives who are in the country illegally already. And it causes a lot of resentment. Then you add inevitably, when you get these kind of numbers coming in, that you're going to get migrants committing crimes. And when they do, this becomes a hugely inflammatory thing. So again, on that aspect of it all, Robinson is correct.
Have you guys heard Piers Morgan before? Because I've seen a lot of Piers Morgan. I've listened to a lot of his Uncensored, especially when Tommy Robinson comes up, and he's quite volatile towards Tommy, usually all the time. He's not once I could be wrong about this, but I have not seen once Piers Morgan give credit to Tommy Robinson uncovering and banging on about the grooming gang scandal in the UK, the graping gang scandal. I have not once. Have you guys? I've been calling out Piers Morgan for quite some time, especially over his coverage regarding Tommy Robinson. But this surprised me. Like, actually surprised me. I'm watching this going, what? Am I watching Piers Morgan or what's going on here? Piers Morgan giving Tommy Robinson credit where credit is due, where he's never given him credit for uncovering and talking about and exposing the harsh and disgusting graping gang scandal. He's never done that up until this moment. And I think credit where credit is due. Why he's doing this, I don't know. He mentioned like the woke ideology because no one really wanted to call out the fact that it was Pakistani Muslims that were abusing all of these women. He didn't want to go too much into that, but still people at the time, like the ones who were covering it up, they were corrupt. And many of them are still corrupt. And now that because of Tommy and because of, I guess, a few other journalists as well that were banging on about this. And I mean, Piers didn't really do too much himself. Like, it's only now. So it appears like that I've been saying about Piers for quite some time. He goes where the clicks are. He goes where the temperature is not exactly the hottest, but he'll go where it's relatively safe almost. You know, I'm going to call out Tommy Robinson because it gets me clicks. I'm going to go after Tommy, and then all of a sudden the temperature wanes down, and then Tommy becomes like really, really popular. And now Piers is like, okay, I need to try and get Tommy on my show. So I'm going to have a change of heart, change of tune. That's what it seems like to me in this moment. But still, credit to Piers for bringing attention to a man that rightfully deserves credit for exposing one of the most horrendous scandals in UK history. And you did nothing about it, Piers. You did nothing. You're only doing something now, barely. But my goodness me. Again, the second point, Piers Morgan saying that Tommy Robinson is right about immigration. Have you guys heard Piers Morgan say any of this of late or even recently? Or is this the first time you're hearing it? Because this is literally the first time I'm hearing this. So this is like actual gold, people. I don't know how long it's going to last. I really don't. But you've got Piers Morgan. Yes, he's parked. He said that he's got some reservations about Tommy, and he thinks that how Tommy interacts with people in America is a bit disingenuous. Like, park that for a second. But when it comes down to immigration, Tommy's right. So he's right about two things. One, the mass immigration problem and the grooming gang scandals. Two massive things that he's been right about. And even when Piers was interviewing him on Good Morning Britain, he was right then. But yet you attacked him. And now all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and he went on about, I think it was Rupert Lowe, right? Like, the immigration problem is getting to an all-time high, and men now, like, because his audience has grown enormously. See, it's easy to attack someone that doesn't really have too much of a major platform. Like the same kind of tactic Kenny Owens uses, right? I'm going to go after someone with not a big platform and strike them down very quickly so they can't rise back up and then they can't have a much bigger audience. And it's much easier to do that than go after someone that's like much, much bigger. So Piers now is almost like having a change of heart and a change of tune towards Tommy, because now Tommy is really, really powerful and popular. More popular, as it would seem, than Piers is, especially when you go walking down the street. So I think Piers is having a change of heart and a change of mind, more than likely because it's profitable for him to have a change of heart and a change of mind. And he's telling Patrick Bet-David this. But this whole landscape to me just feels like it's one big game, doesn't it? Just, I'm going to go after you. I'm going to go after him. And it's just, I've just been thinking about this for quite some time now, actually. Like, people that are in this landscape, and it just seems so fake. It just seems really, really fake. And like the disingenuous point, the whole thing, like, I understand we're calling out lies and opinions and topics and all that sort of other stuff, but people, man, these people, they're constantly changing to and fro, and it's annoying sometimes. Like, why can't people just be solid in their opinions and their viewpoints, their values? Why have they got to be constantly like the wind, just tossed to and fro? I guess it's like what the Bible talks about, but man, I guess it's going to keep content going, but doesn't make it any less annoying, does it? Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.